Good morning, one and all. I hope I find you well. We're going to do something slightly different today. Something that it's been like this, whether we'd physically do it because whether it'd be easy enough to do like this. However, I thought, you know what? I'm gonna give you the stuff. Let you have a go with it. Um, and sort of see how you do with it really because I think people will be up to doing it, so I mean you can have a go then, can't you? So one of the things that we didn't really get a chance to do this year in classes because we would have done it slightly later is a 20 mark question, and a 20 mark question is really important to the later exams, especially the third exam, which is very much based on very long questions where you get your case study and things like that. So what I thought I'd do today is I thought we'd have a little look. I've got a little PowerPoint and I've got a Word document set up on the screen. I'll show you in a second where we'll literally write it together. Basically, we'll write the basics of it. I'll show you some example stuff of what I would do, and then the ball will be in your court to have a go at this question, to see what you can do with it, to see if you can answer it correctly, see if you're happy with it, and we'll have a little discussion as and when we're completing it. All right. So I'm not expecting it to be an hour long stream today or anything like that, because I really want to put the onus on you, the viewer, to be able to spend some time with this and complete it well, really. So I hope that makes sense. I hope they're happy with that. But I hope it's going to be very useful for you, very usable. All right. So let's have a look at it. So here we are. Now, the first thing I want to sort of draw your attention to with this is, don't think of 20 mark questions as something that's significantly different than your 10 mark questions or your 12 mark questions or anything like that. Exactly the same skills are needed and are used in exactly the same way as you would do for the other ones. The only thing that's different about a longer question is you need to be showing a wider depth, essentially, of evaluation of your discussion needs to be in more depth. Not crazy amounts of depth, though. We're not talking about degree level stuff, an essay on the thing. But essentially, that's what you're writing, aren't you? You're writing a small essay in a time controlled environment. Now, so it's a good skill to have anyway, because to be honest, the skills and abilities that you use in writing these longer answers are the same things that you would do in sort of a professional context when you are using when you write in like sort of formal documents and things like that. So they're pretty good skills to have anyway. All right, so that's just wanted to say that you don't think this is a brand new thing. You're already halfway there. As long as you're okay with your exam technique already, understanding your evaluation and your analysis and stuff like that, and the way that you actually set it out, then there's no reason why you should find this particularly difficult. If you are someone who struggles with exam technique, then that's fine. This is going to be really good practice for you as well, and just to bring you into that, because if you can master the 20 marker, then the 12 marker and things like that will fall into place anyway, because this is the hardest out of any of them. Or is it the hardest? It's not really, in terms of like if a lot of students say this is the hardest, but then when they actually do it, they go, oh well, it's not actually that hard, because it's just extending a 12 marker. So let's have a little look at these. Okay, so we've got our essay question. So the question that we're going to be having a look at today, and I hope you can see it all right on there, but it says, discuss with the use of examples the view that businesses that successfully promote their products are likely to be the most profitable. Okay, big question that. Now let's break down the question to begin with, because it's a really good thing to do. Discuss, so we know it's got AO4 in it. Realistically, if it's got if it's a 20 marker, they're gonna want everything. Now, as you can see here, it isn't actually got any specific AO2, but you're gonna have to put AO2 in it because you've got your AO4, and AO4 at this level requires examples and things like that. It even says it, doesn't it? So discuss with the use of examples. And although AO2 isn't specifically stated in the in the criteria, it's still going to be needed to some extent. The view that businesses, so we need to be showing a range of ideas that businesses, not just small businesses, not just big businesses, not just new businesses, not just old businesses, international business. There's loads of things to think about here, isn't it? That successfully promote their products. Okay, so we know we're talking about marketing now. We know we're talking about marketing because I've written marketing on here, but in terms of the question, we know we're talking about marketing. So businesses that successfully promote their products are likely, really important one, because it'll draw yourself back to the evaluation point of it, are likely, not they will definitely or they will definitely not. There's no definites in this. We're talking about the likelihood of this happening. To what extent does it happen? Be the most profitable. Be the most profitable. Not in terms of, we're not saying they're not going to be profitable. We're not going to say the people who don't do it aren't going to be profitable. So it links back in with the to what extent sort of idea this, isn't it? So keep bringing yourself back to that when you're talking about it. It will help you make your answer more detailed and more analytical, if you can say to what extent will this happen and things like that. All right. Now, let's have a look at the AOs. So we've got AO1, 4 marks, AO3, 8 marks, and AO4, 8 marks. So we've got our actual knowledge, we've got our analysis, and we've got our evaluation. However, don't forget that AO2 is implied at this point. We need the AO2, don't we? Especially when it says with the use of examples. So that could very well have AO2 in it. In terms of AO4, they're definitely going to want you to be putting some examples to answer the question. Now, we've got a general structure here, which we will put in as we go. So what we'll do now is let's have a little look at this. Now, in the actual exam, what they will probably do is they will probably give you a case study. They will definitely give you a case study in the third exam, or they might give you a little bit, or they could give you a longer one. In this one, there's no requirement for them to give you a case study though, because you don't need a case study for that, do you? They could give you a bit of understanding, of something, but then again they could just rely on the fact that you would know something. So there's no requirement for them. You don't need a case study for this. And even if they said, all right, well, from now on we're always going to give you a case study, you don't need a case study to answer this question, because there's nothing that specifically links to a case study, is there? So don't be frightened by that and thinking, it's quite scary, but it can be quite empowering as well, because you can just rely on your own analytical skills. There's nothing in this that you need to know separate about companies. As long as you understand your theory, you're good to go. So let's have a look. So it says general structure. So we've got our intro paragraph. Try to show some initial judgment. Okay, now it's an important thing of how you start these off. Now we always say start your essays off, start your exam answers with a definition, and that's fine. If you are doing that, just stick it in. All right. So just put it in. I'm not going to write one out right now, but just choose one so you can do it on. What could you have it on for this one? So businesses that successfully promote their products, or we could have something like the marketing mix. We could have something like product life cycle if you want. We could have something like what else could we have? Let's go with the view that businesses that successfully promote their products. Yeah, so I go with something like that. So a marketing mix would be a good one probably for this one. But anything to links to that, if you wanted to do any sort of marketing spiel at this point, you'd be fine to do that as well. But anyway, so stick your definition in. That's not, remember, they're not going to give you any marks for that. They're not going to give you any marks for your definition, but they will give you marks in case you completely trash the rest of it and they are desperately trying to give you marks. Remember, your examiner will always try to give you marks. They're not trying to dock you marks, they're trying to give you them. And also, you can't get marks taken off you for what you do. Essentially, it doesn't really work like that. The examiner is supposed to be positively marking. They're trying to look for ways to give you marks. Okay, so give them something like that. It's a nice little safety net. They're not going to specifically give you a mark for it, but ultimately, if you cock it up, and it just builds into the whole idea. Okay, now it also says try to show some initial judgment, and it's an important thing that the way people start essays, it says a lot about. It says a lot about them essentially, because then you've got it kind of builds into them. Sorry, I got a text message then, and it distracted me for a second. So let's have a look at it. So how would I answer this? Well, I would start this answer with something like, to what extent? So let's really get that question ingrained in your mind. Discuss through the use of examples the view that businesses that successfully promote their products are most likely to, are likely to be the most profitable. So businesses. Let me just bring it down a bit. Businesses that successfully promote the products are, to some extent, the most likely to be most profitable. However, there are a wide range of other aspects that significantly affect the likelihood of success and overall profit for a business. Okay? I know you can't see it here, but I've just said businesses that successfully promote their products or to some extent the most likely to be most profitable. So I've said, okay, I've gone in with this sort of evaluation things. I've started my evaluation because I've already said that there isn't a cut and dry answer to this. Okay. However, there are a wide range of other aspects that significantly affect the likelihood of success and overall profit for a business. Okay. So I've not said anything crazy here, but I've given it a nice little introduction that says it. So and I've started showing a little bit of judgment. Can you see that I've done that already? So you don't need to go crazy, just bring us into it nicely, the fact that you're now going to talk about it. All right. Now, what we do next is we have to look at, I'll just draw your attention back to the three arguments for the statement. Why is promotion so important? What benefits does it bring? In what situations markets might promotion be more important than others? So different stages of thinking. So what you need to be thinking now is you need to think of three arguments. Either, that's me. Either positive or negative, depending on, as I said, my hotkeys are all on this, so it might play with the screen a little bit, but or negative depending on the question. In this case, are you starting, essentially, it's up to you what you go with, whether you want to start with positive or negative. Ultimately, what I always find is start with whatever you intend to end on, essentially. So if you distinctly disagree with the idea that this thing, start with the negatives. Because it naturally flows. You will then talk about the positives as well, but then when you come back to it at the end and you conclude it, it will feel more natural than start, arguing against yourself for 5 minutes and then coming back to it. It's not a cut and fast rule. It's up to you, but I think it's more sensible, more logical to, if you want to disagree with the premise, then start with your negatives. If you want to agree with the premise, start with the positives. That's my own personal thing, though. It's not it's not a requirement to do. So we start with our positive or negative ones. First of all, we've got to talk about things like, and as it says on the left here, why is promotion so important, and what are the benefits does it bring? In what situations? So we need to talk about 3 times, essentially. So 3 times that the statement in the question is true, and evidence. Okay, so let me just bring this down a little bit. So when we're talking about the 3 arguments for the statement, 3 times when that statement, in terms of we're saying that businesses that successfully promote their products are the most likely to be profitable. When is that the case? When can you give me 3 arguments? Can you give me 3 positives of it? Can you give me 3 times that you think it would be more important than other things? And it can be really simple things. It could be things like I don't know, something like, just off the top of my head, we could have things like, if you don't promote your brand, then you don't get customer loyalty, and relationship marketing is all based on, developing that relationship, and relationship marketing is so important to, continued success now. The fact that, you want customers to come back to you considerably, again and again and again, that you need that. So therefore, if you don't promote effectively, then the relationship and between you and the customer will be diluted or not made as strong to begin with, and therefore you're not going to be as successful. Therefore, your profitability will be affected. Can you see what I mean? I'm just thinking of that off the top of my head, but that's what I want you to do. And the reason that I haven't got a really specific pre-written thing for this is because I want to be simultaneously in this situation with you. I don't want that. I hate it when teachers do that, you see, when they have a pre-written spiel that they all go through. Oh yeah, here's a perfect answer that I wrote before. Well, I can give you a perfect answer, and that's no problem. But the problem with that is I need to be looking at this fresh with you, because then I'm simultaneously in that situation with you, so that we can experience that the dread of the question together, can't we? Because you're going to be in that situation. We need to be thinking how you would think in that. All right, so train yourself if you can. So, relationship marketing is just one example. You could talk about the product life cycle, where it is, depends on when it is. You could talk about the marketing mix. You could talk about anything in terms of that, and then why it's so important to adequately promote your business. If you get stuck, go back. There's a whole video on promotion. There's multiple videos on the marketing mix. There's all these different things. So if you get stuck, please just go back and have a look, because if we've done all the lessons, you might as well use them. Now, once we've got, so let's say for argument's sake, we've got our 3 arguments, okay? So we've got our 3 chunky arguments, and we don't need to go too chunky, but we want to be saying, look, remember, with this one, you've got 1.5 minutes per mark, haven't you? So you've got 20 marks, that's 30 minutes. You've got 30 minutes for this, so a half an hour to write it. So in real terms, if you've got 6 arguments and a conclusion, what have you got? That might 7. Probably just over about 3 minutes ago. So it's tight. You know what I mean? Like, so you've got probably, in terms of everything, you've probably got about 15% of your time per argument, something like that. Maybe a little bit less, probably more like 13%, something like that. But anyway, so it's really vitally important that you make your plan in terms of this, that you get it in your head. But we've got our intro, we've got our 3 positive versus / negative, depending on what you want to talk about, and then we go on to the negatives. All right. Now, one thing I don't want you to do, though, is I don't want you to stop evaluating throughout. So if I'm talking about a positive, if I'm saying something like, let's say we're talking about relationship marketing, like I said. So I've gone on about why relationship marketing is vitally important, and promotion allows us to access that relationship marketing to gain that loyalty and to get that competitive advantage over our competitors. So, however, and it's really important, isn't it? We need to do, however, or to what extent. Remember, because we're talking to what extent. However, this depends, or something like the significance of this will be affected sorry, I know you can't see this, just one second, will be affected dramatically by the nature of the business itself and its market. There are many businesses that don't require as strong customer loyalty or relationship marketing for these. This will be less important and affect profit or profitability less overall. Something like that, as I said, Do you see what I mean? I'm just putting some justification, I'm putting some evaluation in when I'm talking about it. So I'd put something like that. Remember, it's all about the significance. I'm talking about, look, to what extent is it important? Well, with this one, it's affected, isn't it? That you effect something and it is affected. So what we're saying is that there will be businesses that don't really care about loyalty or relationship marketing in this because of the nature of the business, that they're only one-time purchases, excuse me, or perhaps they're so cheap that they're not really bothered about spending loads of time on this. You could say something like the price itself sells the product, like pound shops and stuff like that. There's no need to go out and do loads of marketing for that, is it? It's not really a massive issue. Businesses that successfully promote their product, well, I would argue that let's go on to this now. So now we've got our three arguments. The opposite. Sorry. To whatever you've talked about. So. Okay, so I've just put on here, 3 times that the statement in question is less true / false, because it's not going to be false, it's going to be less true, isn't it, in this regard, because it's a discussion we're having. All right. Now, in terms of this as well, and then we need to evidence it as well. And now, when we're talking about your negatives, because there's loads of, it's quite easy to argue against this, isn't it? Because you could say something like, well, look, talk about price elasticity or income elasticity, something like that. You could say, well, look, businesses that successfully promote their products are likely to be the most profitable. Well, no, I disagree, because there are situations where the promotion of the products isn't really an issue. For example, what about necessity items? You don't need to promote them, and you could have a massively successful business, or you don't need to promote them as much. What about things like Poundland? Where they don't need to really, I mean, I suppose they have a sign outside, but they don't directly market the products really. They might have a sign up in the shop, but you don't see Poundland adverts and things like that. I don't even know if Poundland still exists now, but it might not do at the other side of this. But ultimately, you see what I mean, like, or Pound Stretcher and stuff like that. So the shops that are selling less things, they're less worried about directly promoting individual products, because it's not really an issue. It's not, essentially we're completely dependent on the price here, aren't we? So what we're actually talking about is a situation where this would be less important, wouldn't it? Now, in this one, it says, what we've got on the left-hand side, we've got, when is promotion less important? How could promotion damage profitability? What other factors might affect profitability? Other elements in the marketing mix are important. So essentially, at this point, you could argue, couldn't you, that the actual question here that we're answering is promotion the most important part of the marketing mix? That's kind of what it says, isn't it? So in which case, you could kind of structure your argument on the other parts of the marketing mix as well, couldn't you? Of saying, well, no, I believe that price is more important, and talk about like what we've just said. You could say, for the other 3 arguments, do the other 3 marketing mix, essentially. That's a nice way of doing it, isn't it? Wouldn't apply to all of them, obviously, all 20 markets, but in terms of this, you can find a little niche here to do it. So I think the product's more important, in terms of, you could talk about Apple with their ecosystem, and the fact that they're willing to, that all the products talk to each other, and that they've got the loyalty is more important in terms of that. Are the businesses that promote themselves more effectively most likely to be most profitable? Well, yes, to some extent, isn't it? So you get your 3 arguments that are against it anyway, and you can have any you want. As I said, in this case, it might be nice to have your other 3 parts of the marketing mix so you can kind of argue, but make sure that you're talking about it in terms of coming back to your justification, your significance in that situation, your importance of doing it. All right, because if you don't do that, all you're saying to us is, I blindly believe what I believe, and I don't understand that this question, it requires a discussion Yeah, it doesn't really matter what you think. What you are demonstrating, the actual thing you're demonstrating here, is your ability to look at two arguments and then compare them and contrast them and show that you understand that there is a discussion to be had, and regulate that discussion. That's what you're doing. Now, remember, one of the most important things that we want to do on this as well is we don't want to be showing we don't want to be showing bias until the conclusion. Ideally, we just want to be discussing. So we can say positives, and we're caveating them with the negatives of things that we said, like however the significance of this will be majorly impacted by, for each one. So essentially, you're going to have three positives with your kind of argument slightly caveated at the end of each one of who it's going to affect significantly most, the more significant impact on it will be. And then we have three opposite, three against it, with that again, with the little caveats in it. But then when you get to the conclusion, then we can start actually answering the question, because you've not answered the question yet. Now it says conclusion, answer the question. All right, it's really, really important that we actually physically answer the question here. So if we were doing a conclusion, because I know that a lot of people struggle with conclusions, and it's not a hard thing. You've got to literally just try to come down on the point of it. So we need to say something like, just like we did at the start, just bring yourself back to what you started with and say something like, there are many aspects of the marketing mix that affect a company's ability to succeed. However, promotion is one of the most important. This is due to its effects on customer loyalty, brand, recognition, and we'll say something like perceived elasticity of demand. So it will affect it, won't it, in terms of your perceived value of the product and things like that. A successful marketing campaign will significantly increase the chance of the business thriving and the products selling well overall. However, there are a significant amount of other aspects of the marketing mix that are hugely impactful to the likelihood of success for the business. Can you see what I mean? I'm just sort of trying to tie it up here. So I'd be saying something like, overall, the impact of our well constructed marketing campaign will be affected by the type of product and type of customer you are trying to target, but promotion of the product is a key player in the success of the business. Okay, so as I said, I'm just sort of talking around it. I'm going to make it bigger so you can see it properly. I'm just sort of talking around it here a little bit. Whilst it's fair to say that companies that spend time on their promotion will more can see that bigger priced items will be more affected overall by promotion than smaller than cheaper products. Nearly done now. Companies should seek to what am I trying to say? Business companies should seek to equal up or balance the various position. Right. Okay. So I've just, as I said, I've talked about this. Now, one of the big advantages that you've got over me in this regard is I've not written 6 other paragraphs. I'm trying to write a conclusion based on nothing here. But can you see, even if it's based on nothing, I'm still able to evaluate because I got a basic idea of where I'm going with it. So let's have a look. So I've put, there's many aspects of the marketing mix that affect a company's ability to succeed. However, promotion is one of the most important. This is due to effects on customer loyalty, brand recognition, and perceived elasticity of demand. A successful marketing campaign will significantly increase the chance of business thriving and the product selling well overall. And while there are a significant amount of other aspects of the marketing mix that are hugely impactful to the likelihood of success of the business, overall, the impact of a well-constructed marketing campaign will be affected by the type of product, the type of customer you're trying to target. But promotion of the product is a key player in the success of the business. Whilst it's fair to say that companies that spend time on the promotion can see more control over a wide range of aspects of the business, including elasticity of the product and brand recognition, it's important to understand that the bigger priced items will be significantly more affected overall by promotion than cheaper products. overall, as I said, it depends on what we're talking about, doesn't it? Companies should seek to balance the various factors affecting the business and take into account their own unique position when choosing their promotional techniques. This will ensure they maximise the success of the products overall. Something like that. Can you see what I mean? As I said, this is, but I'm just coming off this off the top of my head without having those 6 arguments already done. If you've got those 6 arguments, thread them into what you've talked about here. Your conclusion should be based on it's summing up what you've talked about. So it's using the arguments that you've talked about to actually answer the question. But can you see? I just wanted to show you. As I said, it might not be the best ever, answer ever. But as I said, off the top of my head, with no things. But I just wanted to show you can do it. Even if you're in a situation there where you think, right, well, I'm trying to evaluate, I'm just coming up with, all I'm saying here is that, yes, it's an important thing, but there are other things. Like I said, the impact really will come down on the type of business, won't it, in terms of, so the answer is, to some extent, to a large extent it is, but with yours, because you'll have had your 6 answers, you'll have got your 3 positive and your 3 negative, you can come down harder on one side of them, essentially, and just say, well, because of this, this, and this, for bigger companies, it's more important. For smaller companies, not. What I think always is a clever thing to do with these answers as well is try not to come down too specifically on one side if you can. Always caveat it with the situation, because that's so much better. Like I said on here, I've said that they should seek to balance the various factors and look at their specific situation. That's good evaluation, okay? Because what I'm saying is I understand that there isn't a one-size-fits-all answer to this. Okay. Now, with that in mind, let's have a look at this. Okay. Let's... sorry that you can see my... the way that you can see behind the magic wall today, can't you? You can see that I use PowerPoint. Surely you'd know that. So, just to finish off before we go, because I know this is going on a little bit longer than thingy, but hopefully it will give you a good way of having a go yourself. So, AO1 should have one AO1 point in each paragraph as the core argument. Use key terms for all elements of the marketing mix. For this one, as I said, but remember, we're trying to develop an idea of how you would answer any question, not just this one, aren't we? So in this one, it says 3 to 4 marks, good understanding of the importance of promotion and other factors affecting profitability. Did I talk about that? Well, I did give you some AO1 points then that we talked about of why it would be more important, why it is important, and the situations that it would be. Now, remember that, keep that in mind, because then we've got development in all paragraphs, use of syllabus links. They want to be able to bring other things in, because you might argue that it's not promotion that really dictates that. It's things like the price of it. You could say, oh no, it's the product itself, it's the ability to have the ecosystem. It's not, you know what I mean? It's the way it's sold, like place. So in terms of it's the distribution links or the ability to get it, like Amazon, you could argue strongly that it's the distribution links that Amazon have. That's the real USP. The fact they've got Amazon Prime and things like that. That's how they've got the dominance on the market. Nothing to do with the prices or anything. You might even be willing to pay a small fee. I mean, do you pay? With Amazon are the only people who I pay where you pay up front for the thing. Oh yeah, you get free. You get free delivery if you do this. Well, no, you don't, do you? You are paying for it, but you're paying for it up front because you use Amazon Prime and things like that. So it's an interesting one, isn't it? So you could argue, can you see what I mean? You could argue the other way with that. You could say, well, for them, it's not promotion. Amazon's in terms of Amazon, it's not promotion, which is most important. It's the distribution links that they have, and their ability to use those things. Okay, so at least 2 appropriate examples are analysed. The analysis is balanced and detailed. Key issues have been well developed with a clear line. So, like I said, you could argue Amazon, you could argue Apple, you could argue those. Just give us an example, or you don't even have to use specific businesses, big businesses, small businesses, technological businesses that are primary, secondary, tertiary, whatever it is that you want to talk about. It's totally fine. All right. And then finally, need to have judgment in every paragraph. Like I said, however, significance of. Tell me about different situations it might not be. Need to have an in-depth conclusion, at least 5 sentences. I went further than that. I think that you should make sure that it's chunky. All right. Remember some key AO4 phrases. It depends on most relevant, major significance, because more likely to occur, could be prevented or minimized. If I just draw you back to mine, this is what this bit was about. Okay, significance. This is why this. So, significantly more affected overall, will be affected by the type of product. Well constructed marketing campaign will be affected by significant increase the chance of the business thriving. So do you see what I mean? I'm doing it all the time. I'm trying to use those different things to help you out. But that's good analysis. Good evaluation. Now it says here, excellent evaluation of the role of promotion and other factors affecting profitability. So it's not just promotion. We want to be saying. Also understand that it's not just that. It's one factor. At least 2 appropriate examples evaluated. Remember, we say 3 because it's always just about belt and braces. You could do intro, 2 arguments for both, and then your conclusion. It's just I don't trust myself enough. I always like to do 3. The evaluation is balanced and detailed. Clear judgments are made supporting the statements. Remember, when you're going through your arguments as well, it's really important that we don't give it too much. That's why I was trying to caveat myself. Like when I was talking about up here, I'm talking about your argument, but then I'm caveating it with this. However, it will be significantly affected by these things. I'm not saying it's more informational, this first bit. So you're for and against are just informational. You're just talking about the various points of it. You're talking about, if you were talking about a car, you'd be talking about the various bits of the car. You wouldn't be trying to convince me to buy it yet. You're just trying to say, well, there are positives and negatives to this car. One positive is the engine, but there are problems with space in the back of it. Another positive is this, but there are issues with this. And then when you come to the conclusion, you can say, right, but if you look at your situation, you need this, you need this, you need this. In this case, that would be an absolutely brilliant car for you because, do you see what I mean? So you don't want to try to convince them halfway through to buy the car. You've just got to tell them about the car to begin with. You've got to tell them why it's important, tell them the positives and negatives of the car to begin with, and then try and convince them afterwards. Make sure that they're well educated about the subject, and then you can go into it more detail. I hope that makes sense. Okay. Holistic evaluation may be offered with an overall conclusion. That's what I tried to do down here. Okay. So overall, talking about it, as a whole, trying to bring it in and trying to talk about it as a whole thing. And then I think that, ladies and gents, brings us to it. I mean, it took me a lot longer to talk about it than I thought. Probably a lot of time when I was spending sort of typing stuff up. But 42 minutes. Let's have a quick look at the news because usually we do. Okay, so I am going to just put you on me a second, and then I'll just get the news up for you. But yeah, that is your. That's how you do it. That is how you do it. So what I would like you to have a go at is that have a go at a 20 marker. They're not the easiest things ever, but they are not hard either. As long as you know your stuff, you're good to go. Okay. Yes, I agree, BBC. Okay, so let's have a little look what they're doing. So it says... It's an interesting one, isn't it? So it says here, Oaxaca, I've never heard of that brand, is going to be hell after lockdown. It says, starting up, it's going to be hell. Chief executive and co-founder of the Mexican restaurant chain Oaxaca. A lot of people are going to be nervous about coming out. We've got to do our jobs and making them feel confident, making them feel safe, and also giving them experience that hospitality has. Restaurants and pubs across the UK have been hit hard by lockdown measures that were introduced in March in an attempt to stop the spread of the coronavirus. In England, the hospitality industry expects to be allowed to reopen from the 4th of July, although there's no firm date set for Scotland, Wales, or Northern Ireland. But Mr. Selby does not expect the consumer confidence to return overnight. It's really important to understand that, isn't it? Because that's something that you can talk about is consumer confidence. Maybe that's more important, as I said, than promotion. You can say that the shop's open, but if you've not got consumer confidence to actually go out, if they're too frightened or if they don't feel confident that they're going to get a good product, then they won't do it. The reality is that people are not going to come back in droves. They're going to slowly build back confidence. It typically sells about 60,000 diners each week, but the restaurant chain expects that once it's open, sales initially be down by about 60%. I think it might be worse than that. It could be, couldn't it? It could really be massively affected. Let's have a look. Huawei. I've not heard about these for a little bit. It says Huawei is launching a newspaper and internet campaign to mark 20 years of business in the UK. In an open letter to the public, the Chinese telecoms company says it's as committed as ever to provide the best equipment in the UK's 5G mobile and mobile fibre and full fibre broadband providers. It comes amid a new security review that could lead the UK government to ban the use of Huawei's 5G network kit. That's worrying, isn't it, for them? Huawei's local boss said it expects the UK to act in the nation's interests. The initiative follows the report. That's an interesting thing to say, isn't it? Huawei's local boss says it expects the UK to act in the nation's interests. That kind of implies that they know that there's something going on. I don't know. I couldn't possibly say, could I? The Sunday Times also reported that China's ambassador to the UK had recently told business leaders that Beijing viewed the matter as a litmus test of whether Britain is a true and faithful partner. Victor Yang, I think it's Yang or Zhang, I think it's Yang. Victor Yang, vice president of Huawei and head of the UK operations, told BBC an advertising campaign was about giving people the full facts amid the noise surrounding the company. He said that the UK would take an evidence and fact-based approach and warned of the huge economic impact if greater connectivity was delayed in the company's exclusion, potentially running into tens of billions of pounds of lost productivity benefits. We need to work closely to address the issue, but we need to take action to accelerate the broadband deployment. We don't have time to delay this. It's an important one, isn't it? We are being left behind in terms of this. We're a first world country who's being, it is embarrassing, isn't it? In terms of we should be further. How is this? Just because it's a really interesting one. People talked about this during Brexit, didn't they, about the importance of the cars manufacturer in the UK and how it was all going to be sunshine and rainbows. Okay, it says the industry UK made just 197 cars in April. Bentley to cut up to a quarter of its workforce. Wow. So people in Crewe are going to start feeling it here. It says here the company which makes cars in Crewe has offered all the staff to the chance to take voluntary redundancy. The move comes as the car industry faces a sharp drop in sales due to coronavirus. Bentley has struggled to be profitable in the recent years. Bentley's boss, Adrian Hallmark, said the virus was not the cause of the cuts, but a hastener. That's the point, isn't it? Yeah. They were probably going anywhere, these, because of things like Brexit, because of the uncertainty and things like that. Because remember, we've done about this. You know about just-in-time production. You know about supply chains and things like that, and the significance that it has effect on competitive advantage and that. These car companies in the UK can only have a competitive advantage. They can only afford to be competitive if you can do things like just-in-time production. And if we remove that, or even if there is a threat of removing that, which is significant now, it's more likely there is a significant threat to it, and it's likely that we're going to leave without a deal. It's likely that these are going to see the brunt of this, and they can't afford to do it. If we put tariffs on them, they can't afford to be competitive. Therefore, why would they stay in the UK? And we can see that. So they're saying they're not saying it's about that, but realistically, it probably is. And realistically, whether people will have the money in the coming years to be able to buy these luxury cars and things like that. Okay, ladies and gents. Well, I hope that's been useful for you, and I hope it's been enlightening. I'm looking forward to reading some thingies. I'm not. It's just work, isn't it? It's more work for me. No, I like seeing well written essays, so I'm looking forward to seeing some well written essays. I will speak to you tomorrow. Yeah. Let me get ready. Peace.